I'm going to be an ICE agent for Halloween.
They've really raised their standards of attractiveness over there at MSNBC. Woo! Democrats dumping more gas on the anti-ICE fire they started, even as frontline agents face an 830% spike in violent attacks. The Rhode Island Democratic state rep just called border agents, quote, Nazi Gestapo thugs, following an operation that resulted in the arrest of a known MS-13 gang member. Great timing, kids.
Great timing, kids. Did you hear that? A known MS-13 member. Wow, because, the Trump administration has been so reliable with identifying MS-13 members. It's clearly not a case of, they're just calling everybody that's undocumented a super criminal who's a threat to national security, but we need to get them out. They're all MS-13 members. And the crazy thing is, most of the time, it's bullshit, right? Bullshit rhetoric propaganda that they're doing. But sometimes Trump actually believes they are MS-13 criminal members, like he did with Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
And the Looney Tunes over at MSNBC are freaking out over alligator Alcatraz, but they can't decide which Nazi smear to use. Watch.
That is traditionally called a concentration camp or an internment camp.
Well, what is a concentration camp? Well, according to Wikipedia, a concentration camp is a prison or other facility used for the internment of political prisoners or politically targeted demographics, such as members of national or ethnic minority groups. Whoa! On the grounds of national security or for exploitation or punishment. Wow, seems to me like it's something foreign now, isn't it? Look right here, just to give a few quotes that Trump has given. The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. Nancy Pelosi told me that. She said, please don't use the word animals when you're talking about these people. I said, I'll use the word animals because that's what they are. He said that on April 2nd, 2024. March 4th, 2024. They're rough people in many cases from jails, prisons, from mental institutions, insane asylums. Insane asylums. That's Silence of the Lambs stuff. Yeah, it's back like what he said back in 2015. They're rapists, they're killers, they're murderers. All these things that he labeled this demographic as, exacerbating and highly grossly generalizing a group of people, and he's making them a target not only for the administration, but he's making the people that support him, the great MAGA fan base, that what he's doing is proper. They're getting their just desserts. It's a matter of national security. It's a matter of national security. We have to get them out. Their values don't align with us. They're rough people. They're animals. This is ridiculous. This is the Nazi rhetoric that was used. You paint people as subhuman. You paint them as the problems for all their social and economic problems. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of all of them. We have to. We got to throw them in vans. We got to deport them. Send them to South Sudan, to Sika. Why? Well, because they're criminals. Yeah, they paint them as criminals, and then they justify saying that's why we take their rights away, because they're criminals. They create their own story. They create the premises as to what this story is predicated on, and then they draw their own conclusions from that. Insane.
And I wonder about your specificity in using that language.
Well, sure as hell I'm not going to use what they're calling it. They want to ethnically cleanse this country of certain types of immigrants. Because when I was in that internment camp in the Everglades, I didn't see any Europeans who overstayed their visa. I saw nothing but Latino men and Haitian men.
And if that wasn't deranged enough, the media is doling out tips on how illegals can stand their ground against masked ICE agents.
Oh, wow, how deranged, right? Because there's clearly not a bias towards who Trump labels as, deeming refugees, asylum seekers, and who deserves to be in concentration camps. Yeah, there's no clear bias, and we have never been given a reason to believe that, From all the millions of instances that Trump has, the quotes I gave you guys earlier. But do you guys remember the South African refugees that came, 2 months ago? Why are now South African refugees allowed to come into the country? Because they need asylum, because they've suffered a lot, and they're real good people. Yeah, what did they have in common? It's on my screen. What do they have in common? So there's a demographic, a certain demographic that's chosen, and that's only being selectively placed, and that's being racially profiled by ICE as well. Is it really that deranged? Or maybe it's just what's in front of you. You know, it's probably Occam's razor in this case, huh?
When you're masked like that and people don't know who you are, someone might exercise their lawful right of self-defense to protect themselves, thinking they're being kidnapped. So the notion that this is for law enforcement's protection is utterly ludicrous, and we need to do away with that.
They really raised their standards of attractiveness over there at MSNBC. Woo!
I can't debate the facts you're presenting to me, so I'm just gonna either do a red herring or an ad hominem to get out of this. I'm gonna derail it completely. Yeah, this is another tactic by Fox News. If you pay attention to Fox News, which I don't wish that misfortune on anybody, but I do it for the sake of explaining it to the people. They always do this. There's no logic or sound reasoning. There's no consistency in any type of logic or reasoning that they try to present to you. Stuff like this is common to them. You're going to see even worse ones later on. Isn't this what the Second Amendment is about, according to you guys? To defend liberty, to defend peace? Use it against corruption and thugs? Oh, so this is the interesting question. Now, look, I don't advocate for shooting at officials or law enforcement of any capacity. I don't advocate for that on either side that does it. But when there's multiple incidents of masked individuals failing to identify themselves, using completely random, obscure vehicles, and they come out in whatever equipment that they're in, sometimes in just some regular t-shirts and jeans, just wearing masks in groups, and they come and they point weapons at you, or they manhandle you and put you in a van, that's concerning. That's a problem. That's not normal, and that should not be normal. And the fact that this is something that's getting downplayed by the conservative side, or the extreme conservative side, if you want to make a distinction, which I don't really think there is much at this point, that's a problem. And honestly, that's one of the clearest examples of when the Second Amendment is perhaps enforced in an ideal world, when there's a corruption, when there's almost a tyrannical force being used upon people in an unjust way. You got to fight back. That's what the Second Amendment was for, and people like this love the Second Amendment. So hey, now that the Second Amendment is being pushed upon, that's a problem for the reasons you claim to advocate for. Now look, again, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just presenting you kind of like hypocrisy in that logic. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, though. Let me know.
Well, they have to do something because Democrats, as we pointed out in the last segment, they are underwater in the polling. I don't think immigration is necessarily helping them. I also don't think that
God, I think I should insert like a laugh track after that. The Democrats are down on polling. After the Epstein Files debacle, after the tariffs debacle, after this ridiculous ICE enforcement debacle that's going on. Because believe it or not, it actually is taking effect. There's a lot of podcasters, again, quote unquote podcasters, a lot of influencers who are advocating for Trump. They're seeing this and they're against it. Like, I don't see how you think the Democrats are down in polling. And I just gave you one example right there with influencers that swore by Trump, and even they're turning their backs on him. But if you really think the Democrats are down on pollings after this whole Trump debacle that just continues to repeat and write itself with a continuous denial of Epstein and Trump's involvement and the fucking derailing onto he released the fucking MLK files a few days ago, and now they're gonna prosecute Obama, and he claimed that the fucking Epstein files were a Democrat hoax, an Obama and Biden hoax. I don't see what echo chamber reality can you really live in to continue to push this rhetoric. I think you genuinely just either have to be lying through your teeth shamelessly, or you're just that delusional, or you're just paid off. It's one of the three options, and most of the time it's the obvious one. It's the most obvious one, but in this case, it could realistically be any one of those three. I don't know which one. Let me know what you guys think.
one of the most visible mouthpieces of leftist causes, Rachel Maddow, calling prisons concentration camps. First of all, it's not appropriate. Second of all, it's incredibly offensive to Holocaust survivors and their families, many of whom tend to be Democrat voters.
You claim that it's not appropriate or that's extremely disrespectful to Holocaust survivors and their families. But this is not the only instance in which concentration camps were used. In fact, it predates the Holocaust. It predates the Holocaust. And a concentration camp, as we defined it earlier, is a prison or other facility used for the internment of political prisoners or politically targeted demographics. such as members of national or ethnic minority groups on the grounds of national security, for exploitation or punishment. Like, I defined this for you already. That's clearly what it's being used for, on the grounds of national security, labeling the people you're detaining as subhuman, as animals, as danger to our society in many other ways. And they're a politically targeted demographic. They're an ethnic minority group. They're being put in these camps for punishment. Like, I don't understand. What more do you want? You want them to get killed? Is that what you want?
And she says, on the one hand, every migrant in America is terrified of ICE. And on the other hand, when they get arrested by ICE, they're not sure it's ICE. And it might be an ICE imposter wearing an ICE hat, an ICE badge, and an ICE vest. Can't have it both ways.
Oh, you go to
This is such a disingenuous misinterpretation of what's going on. And this is why Tucker Carlson said that Fox News just propagandizes elderly people, because they can't distinguish this, and they're more malleable and fucking easy to manipulate. That's not what they're fucking claiming. Like, there's groups of people that are wearing just regular clothes, that are just wearing some regular ass jeans, t-shirts, coming in regular cars in groups, and they're just manhandling you, breaking down your window, tackling you, and chasing you out of stores and shit. They're not wearing ICE uniform. They're not wearing ICE uniform. But man, there's a good portion of them that are not wearing no identification. They don't identify themselves. They just manhandle you, stuff you into a van, evade due process, and then you're fucking there for a couple days until they either, one, clear you, or two, send you to a concentration camp like the ones you tried to deny earlier. This is the problem with this rhetoric. There's no consistency. There's no sound reasoning. There's no soundness in logic. There's no consistency in logic. It's just selectively choosing whatever rhetoric I want to place, whatever logic appeals to me, or whatever logic I want you to fucking appeal to. And I'm going to disingenuously misinterpret your point, or I'm just going to do an ad hominem, a red herring. I'm going to derail the conversation. See, this is Fox News. This is the #1 conservative legacy media outlet out there, and this is the type of shit they're fucking promoting. But this is Fox News for you. This is not the first time. If you watch these guys every week, one, don't do it. You're going to melt your brain. Two, you're going to see the consistency in the bullshit rhetoric they try to promote. But that's just me. I'll do it for you. I promise you, you don't want to indulge in that.
I'm going to be an ICE agent for Halloween.